Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community called High Ticket Client Attraction Inside the Circle, definitely come check us out. We definitely love to have you. That community, it was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up that 6- and 7-figure level. So if that's you, definitely come check us out. So today, I want to introduce you to one of the members of our community, Deborah. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Awesome. Great having you. So tell myself and the rest of the members of the community, what is it that you do?
So I specialize in emotional intelligence. So it's something I've been doing for 17 years now. And I work mostly with relationships. So my expertise lies in emotional intelligence, but I help people to have really great relationships with themselves, with their business, with their partners. So any kind of relationship, basically, but all using emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And what got you started down this path?
It was a really interesting one. It just happened by chance. I was working for a company that nurtured entrepreneurs. So it was a business incubator. And my boss had just come back from America and he just read Daniel Goleman's book. And he said to me, Deb, you have to find us a trainer to train our entrepreneurs in emotional intelligence because I've identified that that is the skill that is missing. And I tried to find a trainer. I was still living in South Africa then, and I just couldn't find a trainer anywhere. So I found a book that two doctors had written in South Africa, and it was a workbook on emotional intelligence. And I reached out to them and I said, well, do you run training courses? And they said, no, just use the book. And I said, you can't just write a book and not tell people how to use it, because I found Daniel Goleman's book was really great, but it was very scientific and it wasn't easy to learn, and there wasn't a process in becoming emotionally intelligent. So anyway, I just kept on at these doctors on and on and on, and I wore them down, and eventually they said, okay, Deborah, come up, come and spend some time with us and we will run a trainer course. And they did it, and I became the very first commercial emotional intelligence trainer in South Africa. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. I just love it.
Yeah, awesome. And so I guess, how does it work in terms, I guess, why do you think emotional intelligence is that one key, that one missing piece for most entrepreneurs?
Well, with being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of chances that you take. We often have a lot of failure. There's just so many emotions, so much stress that goes through your life and your mind and in your business when you're an entrepreneur, because it's generally people who are risk takers. But if you don't know how to be resilient and bounce back, we often take that failure really hard. And sometimes you'll fail and you'll just give up. But if you know how to bounce back and how to deal with the stress and the emotions and everything that comes with starting or owning a business, you have a much higher degree or level of or success rate, a chance of success at it. But not only that, it's about, when you become emotionally intelligent, it teaches you how to connect with people and how to understand people. So emotional intelligence is all about relationships, or business is all about relationships. So it really helps entrepreneurs to then be able to sell as well as maintain and monitor and work with their own stress levels.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, how does someone become emotionally intelligent?
It really is a process. And, we've got a course in our academy where you take somebody right from the beginning, and honestly, you start as if you're going to start learning a new language. Because the first thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if you're going to become emotionally intelligent, you need to know what the words are. You need to be able to label the feelings and the emotions. So that's where you start from. And then you teach people how to be self-aware, how to be, to recognize the emotions within themselves, what those emotions are. So there's a lot of different things that you have to learn, but it honestly is a process that you've just got to follow through. It's not something that you just learn overnight.
Mm-hmm. Powerful stuff. Now, tell us about who's the ideal client for you? What type of clients do you typically work with?
I work with an array of clients. I've got two different audiences. And my one audience is parents and educators, because I really believe that if you're going to help children to be successful one day, then if you raise them with these skills from a young age, they'll have those skills for life. And then I work with individuals who want to change their life. You know, a lot of individuals get to the place and they go, I want to own my own business. I want to live life on my terms. I want to have a business on my terms, but they don't always know where to start. And often their fear of failure or their anxiety or their stress gets in the way. And those are the kind of people that I really, really like helping, because once they get all of that out, they can be themselves and their business just becomes an extension of themselves. And it just makes the whole thing work so much better. So those are the two audiences that I work with.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just said as far as when you come from a place of being yourself, right? Not trying to pretend or whatever, but come from your authentic self, everything in life, business, everything just works a lot better, right?
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
much better. Because when we
Yeah.
try and be somebody else, it's so much harder work, isn't it? I mean, if you're constantly wearing a mask and trying to compare yourself, and that takes a lot more effort. And I was always into personal development, but now my tagline or my saying is, it's not about developing yourself, it's about being yourself. So it's getting rid of all that stuff that's been put on top of you to make you somebody else, so that you can reveal the real you again.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So if you had to sum up everything, all your experience in your life into one core sentence, what would that be?
I have always lived my life based on Wayne Dyer. Um, he had that little slogan where he said, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. And I have found that whenever I am stressed out, irritated, upset, when things don't work, if I'm stuck, whatever, look at it, look at it again, look at it from a different angle, and the whole thing will change. And you can then have a fresh start and you can do things differently. So I really live my life based on that quote by Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer is awesome. Because there's so because I used to actually live in not South Africa, but in Zambia. I lived in Zambia for like
Okay.
2 years, and I remember listening to, because I used to go on these runs, and I used to remember listening to Wayne Dyer, and that say in his tapes, they were just like rattle around in my brain. And I love what you just said, when you
Yeah.
change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, or the things you see change, or whatever, because that's like a very
Yeah,
vivid quote of his that definitely stands out to me. So
definitely.
yeah, so you said you've always been pretty big into personal development, personal growth. Mm.
I have. And I think it was, when I was introduced to, the first time I got involved in personal development was more on the nutrition side, because I had chronic fatigue syndrome for years and years and years. And I learned how to take care of my body and feed it properly and feed it better, because I was living on toast and tea and, your body kind of runs out of nutrition. So that was my entry level into personal development, because I realized how differently I felt and I had such incredible energy. And then from there, it just intrigued me, because I became conscious and awake. And I felt so empowered, because when I went to doctors and they said to me, well, we can't do anything for you. We know nothing about this condition. We can't help you. Take a couple of vitamins. But I discovered a book by a man who changed his health. So I followed his lead. So from there on, I was just absolutely addicted. When I just felt empowered, because I knew that I could do something. I didn't have to wait for somebody else to make me better or to change my life, that I could do it. So since 1998, that's kind of just been my jam. I love it. I love it. I never stop learning. I never stop reading books, listening to books. It's just a real passion of mine.
Hmm. Yeah, fascinating stuff. I love it, and it's always interesting to see, especially with coaching, giving advice where you could learn from somebody else's stories, right? Because I think in the past, the way it was, you would have to go to an expert who went to school for so many years, all these different things,
Yeah.
to learn from that person. But then you start realizing that most people don't have the answers, and it could be just an average person who's gone through it themselves, and they figure some stuff out, and they write a book or something that could really help someone else.
Yeah.
And coaching is just such a fascinating just journey, isn't it?
That's so true, because if you think about it, like you just said before, it was always the title. You had to have this title, you had to have this university degree, you had to have a PhD, or whatever the case may be. But now, learning from other people's experiences and following their lead, it's so powerful because you've got nothing to lose. You read an amazing book and you go, oh, well, if he could do it, I can do it. Or if she's done it, I could do it. And that's kind of the way I've always done it. If somebody has fascinated me by, who was it that said you don't reinvent the wheel, you just hang out with successful people, learn from them, and you can make your life a success.
Awesome. Would you say, in terms of entrepreneurship, would you say you're just a natural? Have you always been an entrepreneur?
I think so, because I've always wanted to work for myself. I've always wanted to have more, be more, do more, and it was very based around my children, because I was a single mom, and it was just never enough. What I earned was never enough, because of course back in the day as well, women used to earn so much less than men. So I wanted to have more, and I wanted to spend more time with my children, because I found that I was working so much, and I wasn't always there for them. So that kind of sparked my entrepreneurship. And yeah, I think that started in 1998, when I did the whole nutrition thing. And now, once you start working for yourself, it's really hard to go and work for somebody else, because obviously it brings a lot of freedom, it brings a lot of joy, it does bring a lot of stress, but but I think once you get past that and you get into your groove, it's so fulfilling. I'd never be able to work for a boss again, ever.
Yes, I'm the same way as well. So once you catch that bug in the beginning, it's always tough, right? Just the getting the traction, the initial momentum. But once you figure it out, it's like,
Yeah,
why would I ever go work for somebody else?
exactly.
Yeah, love it. So what's your vision right now? What's that vision that you're working and building towards at the moment?
I have got an amazing big vision. So when I started my journey into emotional intelligence, I opened my coaching practice, and I started working mostly with companies and with VIPs and managers. But then I started getting a lot of young clients. I got children, teachers, families who wanted help. And I discovered in my coaching practice that everybody had the same problem. So even, if it was an executive that came to me for an anger management problem, discovered that the children had exactly the same problem that was just sort of resulting in something else. So I started working with kids, but I discovered there weren't enough resources. So I started writing stories about books to help children to understand their emotions. And added to that, I then started stories about the bears of Blueberry Forest. So I created this brand, and it was about these 6 characters that live in a fictitious forest, and they teach children how to understand and express their emotions and how to develop their emotional intelligence. And so it's just that it gives these different scenarios. And then I thought, you know what? The books are wonderful and it's amazing, but what if I could turn this into a TV series, so that would then reach on a global scale, and children all over the world will learn how to become emotionally intelligent. So
Right.
at the moment, I'm working with a university, and they've just written the first script. They've written a pilot script for a show, but the show is going to be adapted for a TV series, because how we want the TV series to be is like a new version of Sesame Street, with puppets, so the mascots and people and role playing and stuff like that. So the next step for us is that is the vision, and the next step is we're going to have to find some investment, but we also know that it's just going to unfold, because this is something that has been in the pipeline for so long. But that is my biggest vision, is that emotional intelligence gets into every home, to every school, orphanage, any place where children are being brought up and being educated. Because I do believe that when children are raised with emotional intelligence, their lives will be so, so, so different.
hmm Powerful stuff, and I love that vision as well too.
Big
Goodness, goodness.
vision.
Love it, love it. Okay, good. So, what are you in terms of books wise? Are you a pretty big reader?
Oh, I love reading. I never stop reading. And of course, now that Audible has come along, so I'm always listening to a book or two at the same time. I'm never just reading one at a time. I've always got like a 3 or 4 going on. So yeah, I like business books. I love spirituality books. Things that like Wayne Dyer. And Donald Miller is my favorite author in terms of marketing. I like Gabby Bernstein. There's just so many. Yeah, because you've got to enrich your mind, and I love sharing knowledge. So whatever I learn, I will do it myself, and then I'll teach it. So I really love it.
Yeah, yeah. I think I heard the quote, the saying that the fastest way to learn something is to teach. So whenever you get something, help other people get it as well too, and you get it at a whole different level. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your favorite books?
So there's several of them. Specifically, I love a book called "Tell to Win" by Peter Guber. And
Okay.
the premise of that is it's all the saying in that book that always sticks out to me. It's the story, stupid. That's a saying, but it just says, like, really, when you think about life and success and all that type of stuff, it's really, there's always a story behind it. The story is responsible for most of the things that move the world. So I love
Yeah.
that one. Another one I
Spoken.
love is "How to Argue and Win Every Time" by Jerry Spence. That's a really good one as well too. But those are
Hmm.
two of my favorites. So I guess, what about
Check it out.
lessons wise from the books? What's one book and what's a lesson that you learned that you think is pretty powerful?
The most powerful book for me that I have read, and I've listened to it, I'm probably listening to it for the fifth time, is Friendship with God. And I started listening to Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God, and it was just so profound because it was, once again, a different way of looking at things. And I'd been raised, been taught that, you know, God was somebody who you feared, and that you, so and then realizing, well, no, God is love. You don't have to fear God, and God's there to help you, and whether you call it the universe or whoever you call God. But it was just such a profound, oh, I can't explain to you. I mean, I just bought copies for everybody, and I sent it to my brother, and I sent it, and I said, you've got to listen to these books. And then, of course, when I listened to The Friendship with God, that was, it gave me such peace in knowing that I could achieve anything, I could be anything, I could do anything, and that I'm always going to have this source of love that's going to guide me and help me along my way. And I just think that book teaches you how to be yourself, and you can be yourself. You don't have to be anybody but yourself, and you've got help. So for me, I always recommend Friendship with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Yeah, cool stuff. Love it, love it. Awesome. So what's I guess, what's one story that you could share with us from your past that you could say has gotten you to where you are today?
On my path, personally or business wise?
Either or.
I remember when, okay, so you asked me earlier on about, was I always an entrepreneur? And when I learned from this author how to heal my body, I decided that I was going to fly to America, and I was going to learn from this man himself. I wanted to hear from the horse's mouth, and I wanted to learn to do what he did. And I didn't have any money to pay for the journey. I was based in South Africa, and it was just incredible because I set my intention. Things started happening. I sold my car eventually to pay for my trip, to pay for, to go to America. I lived on popcorn and a protein drink, and because I didn't really have any money to spend. But it was just so, that journey and taking that action transformed my life beyond my wildest dreams. Because I remember when I set that intention and I said, this is what I want to do, so many people said to me, are you crazy? You've never been overseas. How can you go on your own? Something's going to happen. How are you going to pay for it? What you're going to... And I was so laser focused, and I went, no, I want to learn from this man, because yes, I've healed my body, but I want to learn how to teach this, and I want to learn how to make this a business for myself. Because it was like an awakening, because I had been helped. I wanted to help other people. And there's just so much more to that story. But it was just a case of believing and listening to that inner voice and drowning out everybody else's negativity about it, and saying, I'm doing this. I'm going on my way. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what the next step is, but the next step will show up. And it did. And that was 22 years ago. But that was the beginning. And so I will always say to people, when you get that little nudge and when you have that little voice, that's the voice that you need to pay attention to and listen to. Forget about all the other naysayers, because at the end of the day, I've got to answer to me. I've got to go to sleep at night thinking, well, I've got to feel good about my decisions and what I do. And if I don't, it's going to keep me awake at night. And I don't want to be kept awake at night from my regrets. So, that's just one small story that I can share with you.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I love it. I love it. And it's so amazing how those things that, again, other people see as maybe crazy or it doesn't make sense or whatever. And I realize most people, they should have a story like this, but they don't, because they let other people talk them out of it. And the
Yeah.
life they could have been living today is way, way, nowhere close to where they are today,
Mm.
simply because they didn't follow through on that idea, that hint, that intuition that they had, right?
It's so, so, so true. Don't, and that's the whole thing. Don't let people talk you out of it. Um, because you've got to answer to you, no one
Right.
else.
Yeah. Love it, Deborah. Well, hey, thank you so much. Now, if someone wanted you to, or if someone wanted to reach out to you and find out more about what you're up to and connect with you, what's the best way for them to be able to do so?
You can find me anywhere in social media. So just look for my name, Deborah McPhilemy. And then I've got a platform called Selfie School. So it's selfieschool.me. And it's basically called Selfie School because it's a school of self, learning to understand yourself, learning to understand the people in your life. So they can find me there as well.
Awesome, awesome. And guys, the platforms Deborah just mentioned to connect with her, they will either be right above or below the video, so you can click and get connected right to her. Awesome, Deborah. Well, hey, thank you so much for making the time to be here and share your story here with us today. Really appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. My final thought is always just be yourself. Just dig deep and be yourself, because I love that saying. I can't remember who said it, but they said, be yourself. Everybody else is taken.
Love it. Love it. Well, hey, again, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch, okay?
You're welcome. Take care.